So the point I'm trying to make here, Mr. Barr, that I think is very important for the country to understand, is that there is a real discrepancy in how you react as the Attorney General, the top cop in this country, when white men with swastikas storm a government building with guns. There is no need for the president to, quote, activate you because they're getting the president's personal agenda done. But when black people and people of color protest police brutality, systemic racism, and the president's very own lack of response to those critical issues, then you forcibly remove them with armed federal officers, pepper bombs, because they are considered terrorists by the president.
Boom! That was Pramila Jayapal, everybody. Yes, it is Friday, July 31st, 2020. Welcome to Raging Chicken's Altitude Podcast. This is Kevin Mahoney, editor and founder of Raging Chicken Press. Each week I talk to Schrodinger's gravy seal, Sean Kitchen, about the good, the bad, and the ugly in state and national politics. And today is Sean's birthday, everybody! Happy birthday, Sean! And he's in his new digs. He had to crawl around on the floor looking for his mic cord a little bit this morning to get the show rolling. But he's making it do, and he's got a big smile on his face, so welcome. I, on the other hand, for those of you who are watching on our YouTube page, I'm sporting shades this morning because I had an eye exam this morning and I can't see the computer screen without them. How about that? No. We got a good show for you today, everybody. Here's what we got. It's been a crazy week. Republican Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell has held up an agreement on new COVID-19 relief package, saying that he'll not pass a bill without the liability shield for employers. You know, employers just force people back to work, people get sick, and nobody can sue over it. That's what he wants. However, Republicans can't get their own act together and can't agree among themselves and have failed to reach an agreement as expanded unemployment benefits expire today and the moratorium on evictions expired last weekend. The Washington Post reported this morning that the White House is pleading now with Senate Democrats to keep the additional $600 a week in unemployment benefits, and that Trump will even support a bill without the liability shield. It's all hell breaking loose in D.C. It's crazy. And meanwhile, the Democratic National Committee, you know, touting its progressive credentials, passed a platform this week that they're touting as the, quote, boldest Democratic platform in American history. Scratch the surface of that talking point, though, and you learn that they refused to back Medicare for all, would not back marijuana legalization, refused to call for an end of qualified immunity for police officers, they poo-pooed the federal jobs guarantee, and passed on a comprehensive plan for implementing a Green New Deal. Yeah, they even scoffed at placing conditions on aid to Israel after they're kind of like slaughtering Palestinians. So, here you go. Look, it wasn't all that bad. Look, there was a call for a $15 minimum wage, mandatory paid family leave, and more federal gun control. But, I mean, come on. We're in the middle of a freaking pandemic and you can't even get the Medicare for all? Give me a freaking break, man. Anyways, following Attorney General Barr's House testimony, federal troops are being withdrawn from Portland. After, of course, they brutally suppressed protests since the beginning of July. Activists are saying that they will remain in the streets as the protests enter their second month. I think it's like day 63 or something. Don't you hear this one? John was just filling me in before the show today. Kodak made some folks rich this week, getting about $700 million loan to make hydroxychloroquine. You know, the demon spawn combater. Made a whole lot of people rich in the stock market. Now it looks like maybe someone might be going to the pokey. We shall see. The Washington Post reported yesterday that the Department of Homeland Security has compiled intelligence reports on American journalists who were covering the Portland protest. Yeah, I'm frustrated too, but you're frustrated? You want to get back to normal news stories? Okay, let's try some of these on for size. Baghdad, Iraq hit a record-shattering 125 degrees on Tuesday. On Monday, the temperature was 123 and Wednesday was 124. The electricity grid began to fail and 2 protesters were shot dead by security forces during protest over a lack of electricity and municipal waste service, or municipal services. Don't like the heat? Okay, let's go this direction. How about a quarter of Bangladesh is flooded after torrential rains wreaked havoc on the nation that was pummeled by a cyclone just 2 months ago. More than 1 million homes are underwater, 4.7 million people are affected, and at least 54 people, mostly children, are dead. One more? Okay, sure, I'll bite. According to a new study published on Thursday in the Journal of Scientific Reports, up to 171 million people today face the risk of coastal flooding. And there was a report in State Impact today, actually, about all the chemical plants that are at risk in New Jersey. How about that? Coastal flooding from extreme high tides and storm surges. That conforms to a study released earlier this month by the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Association, which found that flooding in cities along the Atlantic and Gulf Coast has increased fivefold since 2000. Yeah, these are just 3 climate stories from this week that barely made a blip on the news cycle because we're living in a freaking crazy period in history. Oh, a little closer to home today. Happier news, maybe. Pennsylvania saw an additional 860 new positive coronavirus cases, bringing the slow but steady increase in cases to 111,078. The PA Department of Health reports a significant increases in cases among younger people, especially those between 19 and 24, which is great news as we're getting ready to head back to campus, huh, everybody? Yeah. Pro-COVID-19 Republican state legislator Russ Diamond shows his colors again by mocking Secretary of Health Dr. Rachel Levine's call for tolerance and acceptance of LGBTQ people. Levine spoke out after dealing with escalating harassment by pro-COVID-19 brown shirts. Governor Wolf calls on the state legislature to censure Diamond. And then there was 7. Half of the universities that make up the PA state system of higher education have reversed course, moving mostly classes online. That comes after, I think, Lock Haven was the 7th one to call out. Kutztown University, however, is one of the holdouts, of course. Students, faculty, and staff working under the banner of a Healthy Campus Bill of Rights will be holding a town hall on Wednesday, August 5th to discuss concerns and plans to demand Kutztown move to a mostly online fall semester. In related news, Kutztown University President Hawkinson is planning a town hall of his own next Tuesday, the day before the other one. That just sprung up all of a sudden. But don't worry, it won't be open to faculty, students, staff, parents, or community members. No, it's an invite only to select VIPs, donors, and alumni. What the hell world is this? The event is being billed as a, quote, unique opportunity to learn about KU's vision for the fall 2020 semester directly from university leadership. And it's being sponsored by the KU Foundation, the money-raising arm of the university. I'll read you a little email I wrote a little bit later. But yeah, so it's basically, we got a pay-for-play town hall. And as my friend Seth put it, if the people aren't at the town hall, it ain't a fucking town hall, stupid. Now is a perfect time to request your vote-by-mail ballot. If you are a PA voter, just go to www.pavoterservices.pa.gov and click the mail-in ballot application to get the process moving. You got a little time, but get it done now because it's going to get mucked in the works after you heard what's going on this week. Oh yeah, and Mike Pence was in Western PA campaigning for Trump yesterday. His campaign bus crashed into a dump truck. There's a joke in there somewhere. Maybe something with like #dump Trump. I don't know.
Was it Scott Wagner?
Wouldn't that be great? That would be awesome. On today's last call, it was a big week in space news. After I've had a little bit of a hiatus on it, this week, NASA successfully launched the Mars 2020 Perseverance rover on Thursday morning. Perseverance is expected to land on Mars on February 18, 2021. The rover will land in the Jericho crater, which was once filled with water, and they think might be a good place to check for signs of ancient life. Pretty cool. Perseverance will also land with a little friend. For the first time, NASA will attempt to fly Ingenuity, a 4-pound helicopter built for the Martian atmosphere. That promises to give us crazy images of the surface never been seen before. The 2 astronauts who flew the successful Crew Dragon mission, the International Space Station, expect to return to Earth on Sunday. This will be the first time that you actually have people in the Crew Dragon returning Earth, so cross your fingers on that one. On Tuesday, NASA announced a new crew for its SpaceX's Crew 2 mission to the ISS in spring 2021. And finally, Virgin Galactic unveiled its cabin for its Spaceship Two, a swanky space liner that is designed to carry 6 space tourists to suborbital heights for the cost of a mere $250,000 a ticket. And get this, about 600 people have already booked a seat, even though the date for the maiden voyage hasn't been set yet. Today's beer recs, we got 3. We got 3 kind of areas, maybe some more. Free Will Brewing's got a kind of fresh new IPA off the line called Baleful. You've got another another addition to their mashup lineup, the Strawberry Mango Mash, which I had this week. It was freaking amazing. Levante Brewing is released their version of Black is Beautiful. It's an Imperial Stout that's a collaboration with Weathered Souls Brewing. Heavy Imperial Stout coming at 11% ABV. And 100% of the proceeds will be donated to the Juvenile Law Center, where they advocate for rights, dignity, equity, and the opportunity for youth in the child welfare and justice systems. And New Trail Brewing has my official return to campus in the pandemic beer. It's called Up the Creek. Can't have a better title than that. I want to remind everybody, tune in to the Rick Smith Show on Free Speech TV this and every Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern. You can also stream the show live at freespeech.org. And don't forget to download Rick's daily podcast on iTunes, Podbean, wherever you get your podcast. Or you can watch that show live at 9 o'clock every day, Monday through Friday, on Twitter, on Facebook. He streams everywhere you can possibly stream. And we want to remind you also check out our new live call-in show Monday nights at 7 p.m. This coming Monday, we'll be talking higher ed organizing in the pandemic. We'll be talking to student and faculty organizers from around PA. We'll have a student organizer from USass. We got a faculty activist from Westchester. We've got a faculty activist and union activist at Kutztown. And we may have a student. There's a really cool project that's going on at East Stroudsburg University, where students are building solidarity campaigns with food service workers with a thing called the SWORD Plan. So we're hoping to get someone on from there too as well. If you want a progressive future, we need progressive media, though, folks. You can help support Pull No Punches homegrown progressive media today. Become a member of Raging Chicken Press for as little as $5 a month. You can go to patreon.com/rcpress and choose your membership level. We're expanding our network with shows like our live call-in show. It's freaking awesome. It's been great. I'm actually having a whole lot of fun with that. But we got to kind of dig in now for the fight for our future in 2020. And we're all in for the fight, but we need you. Not asking you to break the bank. We just want you to become a member for the price of a good beer once a month. Help keep the media in the movement the media. Become a member for as little as $5 a month by going to patreon.com/rcpress today. Here we go. Sean, man, I can't believe you're here on your birthday. Happy birthday.
Thank you very much. It's nice being here, and it's a good birthday.
It's a good birthday. You're moved into your new digs for the most part?
Yeah, I'm pretty much moved in. I still got a bunch of boxes laying around and shit everywhere, but the main gist of stuff's coming together. So before I was getting on my phone call this morning, our weekly Zoom call, I couldn't find my cord to the microphone, and I was literally just ripping everything the fuck apart to find it. So I mean, that's how it. 9:55, it dawned on me. It's like, oh shit, I don't know where my cord's at. So,
there you go.
Yeah, it was a good start to the morning.
Start to the morning of crawling around, ripping open boxes the first thing in the morning.
Well, I mean, I did take the opportunity. I went out and I walked Wildwood this morning, a nice 3-mile loop. So I've been doing that all summer, going on nice long walks in the morning. So continued that and was fucking around until 9:55 and had a shit moment.
Nice.
So.
Oh man, well it's been a pretty crazy week, and I feel like I haven't talked to you in ages since you were away last weekend, and it seems like I can't tell anymore whether this week was especially crazy or not, but it just seems like the layers of stuff that's happening this week is pretty amazing.
What I love about the first segment when you're reading, the Washington Post wants Trump and the Senate Democrats to keep the $600 a week, and then Steny Hoyer was like, "Oh, we might be, we're not going to be live or die on $600 a week."
It's amazing,
and it amazes me how the Democrats, especially there's one group of Democrats, and it's mainly those in leadership, but people like Steny Hoyer and Nancy Pelosi just continue to fuck things up, and they just continue to fuck up their own. Cold hard cash is the easiest anti-poverty program there is. It's right. The most successful. Just giving people money, free money, works. And yeah, no.
Look, if you have, let's just talk about that though.
And it's
if you got an economy that is built upon consumer spending, that because
people spending money,
all our ability to produce shit, we've kind of exported all that stuff, and so now the only thing that keeps the economy going, people spend. People don't have money, they don't spend.
And it's also amazing. Like, at what point do we not? At what point do we like just start losing our economic status because we're not producing anything? Like, we're not a producer anymore, and it's like, I mean, it like we've destroyed all of our manufacturing capabilities, and like, we don't have revenue to fall back on, like with shit getting produced and stuff like that. I mean, I kind of like look at the stuff what's happening with the reopen stuff, and yeah, the states down south. I mean, like fucking Disney World reopened since the last time we talked, and it's like, well, these states don't have income taxes,
Dude, yeah.
so and it's like, so like their whole entire budget relies on sales tax, and it's like, this is what you get when you have Republicans leading things for like decades, like, and we're watching it play out right now. I mean, also another thing, like the bailout, like refusing to bail out the states.
It's
like
amazing.
all that has to do is, one, breaking the public sector unions, privatizing public assets, and destroying the pensions. And this is the playbook for Republicans, and this is the playbook for like the IMF, the World Bank, and the WTO, and every single distressed country that they give money to.
Absolutely.
And we're using this stuff here back home.
Absolutely.
Like, I mean, this is end stage capitalism right now.
Well, I also think this is about attempting to kind of break people's will too. I mean, because the idea is that you keep people afraid, right? I mean, that's the other part of it. If you get people afraid enough because that they're worried that they don't know where their next the next paycheck is coming from. They don't know if this doesn't go through, what are they going to do? If people are more precarious, right? The theory from those people is it makes them more kind of pliable. I think, frankly, I think right now in this moment in history, that's a miscalculation on their part, because I mean, I have never seen you're talking about like over 60 days of occupation of the streets of Portland, right, with ongoing kind of hand-to-hand combat going on with protesters, and each day the kind of like there's like revisions
an escalation
of tactics
or
what's that?
It's an escalation each day.
Yep.
But it's also I mean, there's appetite. I mean, there's there are people saying, no, we will not fucking stand for this.
Right.
And we have to support our troops. I mean,
yeah, our troops. Like our troops.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Not
support
those feds. Not the freaking stormtroopers that are being sent in there, but our troops on the ground in there.
Yeah.
The wall of moms, the dads with leaf blowers, right? The wall.
I mean, like,
of
this
vets.
is the type of stuff like the resistance we've seen in Portland out of, I don't know if it's hopeful or not. It's going to go two ways. Like the wall of moms and stuff like this, like, has me like, either this ends in massive occupations in soccer stadiums or football stadiums because they're not being used right now, or like the moms bring down the Latin dictators, banging on pots and pans and stuff like that. I mean, like, this is like where we're going.
It's Argentina, man.
I mean, this is exactly where we're going.
Yeah,
I mean, when I see pictures of people getting like kidnapped like that in the streets,
it's just
like my mind, like, that ends in a soccer stadium.
Yeah, exactly.
Somewhere, like,
exactly,
or getting tossed out of a helicopter.
Yes,
and that's how like the right wing wants to end that right now.
It's when that stuff started happening, that was the kind of thing where it frightened.
That's where my men right away was like,
totally
shock doctrine, learning about Pinochet.
Yep.
Like all of the failed
Colombia throwing labor organizers out planes, right? I mean, that disappeared, and I think that people were right in saying that, this is, again, with Michael Brooks, and we haven't even been on the show to talk about, Michael Brooks before. I talked about him quite a bit last week, but Michael Brooks was saying, would correct people when they were talking about, they're kind of abducting him. He said, no, that's disappearing them. That's that process, right? And his like historical like and kind of international analysis was always so like on point on this, and that was exactly what it was. When you saw the pictures, did you see that one picture where one of these federal officers grabbing this this kind of young woman and dragging her away, and she's looking back at the camera like with utter terror in her eyes? I mean, that sent chills down my spine.
And for me, like, at that point, like, if I'm at a protest and someone's getting carried away like that, I don't know what my reaction is. Like, do I run up and try to grab them and take them back? Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's the type of stuff. Like, that's where this is going.
Well, it's
And these are
already
the
going there. I
decisions-
mean, there's been
and these are the
commentary
decisions,
about the Gen Z, right? There's there's millennial commentary on Gen Z, which has been cracking me up lately. Which has been like, we're out there, we're building protests. We had Occupy. But Gen Z, man, they're out there drop kicking cops, right? Because there's you see this film emerge where these federal officers and things are starting to drag away people, and then you got these young activists who are going after them and pulling their friends back.
And they're not going to take this shit lightly. And
No.
that's what I mean, I don't know about where this is going, and this has definitely had me question a lot of my beliefs in pacifism and stuff like that. And I don't consider myself a pacifist, by any stretch of the imagination. But I mean, it takes me back to thinking about the conversations we've had about peaceful protests versus violent protests. Especially with I think George Lake, was it Lakey, last year at the Midtown Scholar, and it's he pretty much said violent protest never works, in that heat of the moment. And I mean, at what point, I understand you take your beatings as protesters, but I don't think you could fault them for swinging back either.
No, and I think
especially with the force of aggression that is going on right now.
But look, I think what you have, I saw there was this interview with this guy who's an African-American guy who's an activist in Portland. And one of the things that he said, I think it was MSNBC. I don't remember which show it was on. I saw the clip. I wasn't watching, and it came up. And I think he was dead on. And I believe they didn't have the beginning part of the question, but they were asking him about, say, the escalation of violence, right? And he's like, look, we come out here and we peaceful protest, right? And they hit us with billy clubs, right? We go home and we put on we put on kind of like shin guards, right? And they tear gas us. We go get gas masks and they hit us over the head, so we put on helmets and come back, and we're back the next day. And then they start shooting us with rubber bullets, so we put on armor, right? He said, "Who's
start wrapping our bodies in
here?"
newspapers.
What's that?
They start wrapping your body in newspapers,
right?
And
exactly.
stuff like that.
And the thing, what I think he had it dead on, right? I mean, that was exactly it. It's the people are coming back and they are protecting themselves and prepared to resist, right?
Yeah,
and
and
I
I mean,
think that's different than kind of having a fantasy of kind of some sort of armed uprising, right? I mean, that's a whole different category. But we were talking about pushing back and standing in defiance, for
and
me,
we're saying, fuck you, you're not doing this, which is
especially when you start taking people away in unmarked vehicles and you don't identify yourself. That's a different order. I mean,
these cops look like they're mercenaries from private armies.
Well, they had some people. I mean, I don't know if you saw this. There were some folks that were they were finding some insignias from I forget what they call them now, but the
ZTI
former
or
Blackwater or whatever Blackwater is now, right? So there were some of these kind of privately hired militia that were there. Now, whether or not those folks were also members of I don't know, of the border guard, and they just happen to have some Blackwater uniforms lying around that give them I don't know. But I mean, that's a frightening thing, because once you start getting to that territory, then you're talking about people that are not even kind of taking oaths to the United States Constitution, right? I mean, then you're talking about just straight out mercenaries, right? You're talking about stormtrooper troops that are directly under the control of the president, and that's freaking.
I know. I think we have to prepare ourselves for the event that Trump doesn't leave in November.
Yep.
Or try. I mean, that's where this is going, and I feel like this is a test run, and it's are you willing to resist in the streets? Because they're going to crack down as hard as they possibly can if that's the case.
Yeah, and I think that what's happened with a lot of what I was happy to hear about a couple things. Once the federal troops began to withdraw from that Trump just announced that, and I think that was after that absolutely horrendous hearing where Bill Barr just kind of was kind of eviscerated by Pramila Jayapal. But they're saying, what activists are saying is okay, now we won that, we got rid of the federal troops, now we get back to the business of kind of dealing with kind of defunding the police in Portland.
Yeah,
right. I mean,
that was
great to see.
Do you think Trump just did that for a couple weeks? Obviously this is going to be for campaign material, but do you think the hearing that the other day was effective in oversight and bringing Barr to task? or you're just giving, because I mean, right now I feel like the lack of accountability from the Democrats, like he should be impeached right now.
Right. That is absolutely right. Well, you actually see, did you see when, you actually had the Federalist Society, right? Right-wing legal people who've like offered the worst people there. When Trump had that tweet the other day that basically said, maybe we're going to move the election, the Federalist Society came out and said that's an impeachable offense.
He should be impeached right now.
He should be impeached right now
and removed.
Yeah, I was like, it's like what?
Yeah.
I mean, again,
like is that effective though? Like someone like the Federal Society coming out?
No, it's not. I mean, I'm only bringing that. It's not effective for anything because most people don't even know who the hell they are, right? But I mean, that's a message to other conservatives, right, and the conservative legal community, right? Basically saying this is a step too far. That's what that's all about. But my point being is that when I heard that on NPR this morning. When NPR is turning to the Federal Society to look for the critique of Trump instead of turning to the Democrats, that tells you the ineffectivity of the Democrats' message right now. Right? I mean, I think Pramila Jayapal was probably one of the strongest questioners.
I mean, I feel like these hearings just provide ammo for Bill Barr and for the Republicans to then like weaponize in their right-wing infrastructure. And like, this is just like you're just throwing meat to the base as Democrats. We're not even doing that. Like there should be a fucking impeachment right now happening over Bill Barr. And we just have it ineffective. And no, I mean, like seriously, like it is going to be Nancy Pelosi and Steny Hoyer who allow the fascists to take over, and like it's going to be their incompetence. Like they're going to be the Neville Chamberlains to fuck this all up.
Well, look, I mean, I think that what we saw with what happened at the platform committee this week is a perfect illustration of exactly that dynamic you're pointing to. I mean, this is kind of like this fantasy that we're going to get back to some sort of like Obama normalcy where the corporate Democrats can rule all over again.
I know, like I think all this is with the convention committees. I know, like I think these committees are bullshit. Yes, like okay, you're an activist, you ran for Bernie, that's good, but for the most part, like I think we shouldn't even like focus on this party platform, right? The party platform, in my opinion, doesn't dictate the future of the party. The party platform is filled with people who are just political insiders, labor leaders, and stuff like that. But also, this is a status symbol for them. There's no real organizing opportunity here on this platform. To me, like just seeing like what they decided to fuck up on this week, like their views on the party platform is completely out of reality, out of touch with the actual like primary voters in the Democratic Party.
Right. And
like all this is for them, the committee and the conventions is just a status symbol for them.
Well, that may be.
Like,
but look,
there's no like actual thought going into like the rank and file Democrats who are sitting on there. Right, like I know a couple of the people on the platform committee from Pennsylvania, and I saw how they voted against Medicare for all and stuff like that. And it's like, no, I mean, like for them, like they don't. That's just who they are, and they just don't care.
No, but what that does, I think, what the platform. Look, we don't have parties in this country in which you have a platform and then the party then holds politicians to that platform or kicks them out of the party. That doesn't happen in our country, right? So the platform, in terms of its actual kind of effectivity as a way of kind of showing what the Democrats are really doing, no, right? And I understand exactly what you're saying. However, right, the point is, and I think the platform fights, right, have been about, it's about a discursive and ideological struggle within that party, for which can be used by other people to do stuff with, right? So, for example, if the Democratic Party got behind Medicare for all, right? Look, it doesn't mean anything.
No, they won't. I mean, but you also look at it.
My point is this: if they did, let's just say they did, right? That becomes a leverage, right, for people to hold Biden like today. It's just one more thing. It's not the only thing that's going to hold him, right? But the fact that in the midst at this moment in history, right, the fact that committee happened and the platform and people know, like the news watches that stuff. And they know that in the midst of mass uprisings, in the midst of a coronavirus epidemic, that these people are willing to. This is their public face, and they couldn't even vote on
like marijuana legalization.
One of the most popular pieces
Fucking
of like
80% support across any political ideology.
Medicare for all is upwards of like 70%. Right, you're talking about after the whole idea about kind of getting rid of qualified immunity for police officers is one of the main demands that is coming out of like after the murder of George Floyd. I mean, if the platform, this is the point, if the platform really doesn't mean anything, right, then these people have no political, they're completely politically tone deaf, because if it doesn't mean anything, they would say, yes, we're going to do these things, simply in order to bolster their political credentials as we go into the election. But they don't even do that.
I mean, I just look at it as like I look at it like at this point as an illegitimate like institution, and like
Fair enough.
Just both middle fingers in the air and like fuck you, we're just gonna do this. Like, I don't think the party platform fight dictates like where the progressive movement went in 2017, 2018, 2019, and 2020 with all these progressives that are winning. Like, fuck you, people. Like these like I think people have to realize also that like. This is the state parties are gatekeeping institutions.
Right.
They don't want people like me in there. Like, but I mean, but that's how they're designed, and that's how they dictate the platform committee. Like, you have a bunch of people who are well. I'm going to bite my tongue a little bit.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Look.
No, but these people are gatekeeping institutions, and that's how they act locally. And like, they do everything they can to make sure progressive activists don't have any say in the local parties on the county or state levels.
Fair enough.
And all it is just a social club to them. And that's pretty much how they treat this too.
Right, but I'll have to say that. Let me say two things about this. Right, this is where I think it's valuable for progressives to fight in that venue too as well, right? Precisely for the reason that you said, to disrupt the club. Now, I disagree with when it comes to, you see some of this discussion online about progressives that, believe that the platform party is the hill to die on, right? And I think that's.
I also think congressional races should not be a hill to die on either. I think we should be electing more people in state houses and state senate races.
No, I agree with you, right? But I mean, my point is that when
I think
you're
there's
building
an
a political
affect.
movement, it's not, you don't put all the eggs aren't put in one basket, right? And we should be able to distinguish between, the party platform, the importance of that versus, to use your example, getting more progressive members elected to the state legislature, right? We should be able to kind of say, okay, we're going to fight in both of these things, but we don't believe that doing anything in the party platform is actually going to accomplish something, but we're going to put in a lot of like people, boots on the ground, so to speak, behind these particular candidates and donate to these candidates in order to get them elected. Now you're cracking up. What?
I know, something funny just came across my Twitter screen.
There you go. Sean's got like, you ever see like, when you're watching like CNBC, no, I don't watch CNBC, but anyone's got the scrolling stock numbers here. So that Sean's got one of those for his
my
Twitter
glasses.
feed. Right, exactly. Anyways, but I mean, so I mean, we'll just see. I mean, I know. I just, when I heard this stuff about the platform, my thing was just like this. I'm like, really?
It's not surprising.
It's not surprising, but like, really, you can't even do a symbolic gesture like this. I mean, you'll dress up in freaking African traditional garb and kind of like in the middle of the Capitol for this performative piece, but you won't actually do something that actually pretends to be substantial. I mean, come on.
Okay, so did you hear what Bill Clinton said yesterday?
Oh, Jesus Christ. Got a little bit too close to Stokely. I almost put that. I couldn't. I mean, I know. Benjamin Dixon just flipped on him on.
Well,
on
also
Twitter.
like the fucking okay. So like one of the things I was thinking about yesterday, like seeing this Bill Clinton scrolling stuff, like god damn it, like with Michael Brooks dying, like because Michael Brooks would have just fucking dug into Clinton and made fun of him for one, saying like, all right there, Jim Clyburn, like thank you for ending the primary. Like he said that during a fucking eulogy for someone.
I couldn't believe that, and it could. So it's like, well, but you
and
know
then
what? You know what that was?
Carmichael comment too.
That was Bill Clinton's old man version of what he did with Sister Souljah, right? It was like, yeah, I mean, it was the same freaking move, right? You're basically talking to the people in the particular community, and you're doing this dual move, right? On the one
Like,
hand,
thank God you didn't embrace that Black Power bullshit.
exactly,
Like
right?
that. I mean,
like
I can't.
these
How
kids
could you,
out, like those young black kids out there today, right? I mean, that's the kind of garbage that
Yeah.
Clinton always did.
I know he did it. Like he did it when 2016 when he was down here, and it's just like when he went after like kids who couldn't vote for Obama losing the House in 2010. Like, you piece of shit.
Exactly.
Yes. So yeah, when you said that, I was like, oh, Bill Clinton, like, and it's just amazing he gets a free pass every time.
Yeah, and I have to admit too as well, as part of that thing, I don't know if you listened to or watched like Obama's speech for that or his eulogy.
I did not.
It was, I mean, again, it was classic Obama, right? But I like took a step away from the news after that, because I knew the entire news cycle was just going to be about praising Obama and how Obama did this, and I'm like, I'm really, and part of that is kind of a legitimate thing. I mean, I think he did a really phenomenal job in actually getting to the core of what Lewis stood for. You know what I'm saying? It was like, and then it's what that's there, but it's like at the same time it's serving a purpose for the Biden campaign, right? To kind of say, yeah, remember the good old days, and there is those good old days are gone.
Yeah.
The good old days are in the rearview mirror as we're looking ahead to Stokely.
Like, yeah, like I actually had to look up who like Stokely Carmichael was.
Oh, dude.
Like, yeah, and it's just like, I mean, like with Lewis passing, I mean, this made me like thinking about like the civil rights tour we took in 2015.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we actually had the opportunity to sit in on Lewis speaking. We were able to visit, like talk to people related to Medgar Evers and that whole entire movement. And it's, yeah, it sucks that like Lewis passed away.
Yeah.
Like,
it's been a hell of it's been a hell of a couple of weeks. It's really has.
Yeah. This is something I really want to talk about.
We didn't talk about, I didn't put this in the show notes beginning here, but speaking of, like the losses that we have faced, there's always the Herman Cain train is now off its tracks. So I'm just saying. And I never want to kind of like dance on anyone's grave in this regard, but here's a guy who was denied COVID-19 stuff, was at the Tulsa rally in Oklahoma. So he was either got COVID-19 at that Tulsa rally or helped spread it to the rally for there with no mask, no anything like this. And the tragedy of that is a guy who's like, who grew up poor, black in the South, and ends up kind of in this kind of fantasy, kind of conspiracy, Trump-ridden world, and it ends up killing him. Is that just as a kind of like a story arc? It's like devastating. At the same time, whatever. Anyways,
I mean, it also shows you the brain. It also shows you that Republicans are a death cult.
No, exactly. Exactly.
They don't embrace wearing a mask.
Yep.
Like, one of the simplest things you can do is wear a mask, and they've politicized it, and no, it's spreading. So one of the things, what could have helped Herman Cain during this time was hydroxychloroquine.
Yeah, I want you to take over this story, because I wasn't aware. I didn't see the story this week, but this is a great story.
So there was this there's this film company, you might have heard of it back over the past 100 years, named Kodak.
Yeah, they were in Rochester, New York, and they used to produce things. They used to move the entire Rochester economy until they shut down all their operations, fired all their workers, and moved their production facilities overseas. Yeah, that one. I know them.
Yes. So Kodak, they also went out of business because they denied the fact that like film. They denied the fact that like digital photography was going to be a thing. And
dude,
the
Polaroids are back.
And they put all their eggs into the film carton, and instead of embracing digital, they made they made this APS-C film, right? Apparently, and like you only had to get their machines to develop this film. Like, that was like their way to fight pushing back against digital, and they got crushed.
Yeah.
So like they've pretty much been irrelevant for the past like 20 years, pretty much, as a company.
At least in the consumer sector. I mean, if they've been still around doing kind of industrial stuff and things like that. But anyways.
Yes.
Sorry,
Um,
I'm from Central New York, so like this stuff is like I know too much about it. Go ahead.
but like their stock has been riding around $2, $2.50 a share for the past like several months, and last Friday, their stock went from $2.50 a share up to $10 a share on Friday, with a whole bunch of volume getting dumped into it from people. And then it was announced, I think Monday or Tuesday, that Kodak was getting a $700 million loan from the federal government that they would have to repay over 25 years. Trump is using the Defense Authorization Act to get Kodak, this film company, to make generic ingredients for hydroxychloroquine. And their stock then went from $2.50 to $10 to $45 a share after the announcement of this stock. And they had to stop trading it like 10 times, like Wednesday morning, in the process of this just going off the fucking chains. Like it just went like, if you looked at a graph, it went from like with the axes from like 0 to 100, it just like riding around 2 and just goes up to 45, like a straight angle up. Like, and it's just a hard 90-degree turn straight up. Like,
That's crazy. Well,
So,
apparently the whistles got blown a little bit because the stock. I just pulled it up. The stock is now down to $20.69. Still 100% increase in profits for those folks who got in at the $10 level.
yeah. So I'm sure there was no like insider trading going on.
No.
I'm sure a bunch of Republicans or Russian mobsters didn't get rich off of this.
No.
Like-
It was Sean. It was just like a whole bunch of people just said at once when it was at $2 a share. It's like, haven't looked at Kodak in a while. Let's get into this just to see what happens.
Yeah, there might be some big news next week.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So do you think there's going to be people going to jail for this?
I mean, I think probably people should. I mean, it's a fucking crime. I mean, it's not like it doesn't take like, it's not that hard to figure this out. Like this shit just doesn't happen. Like, you know what I mean? Like no one just happens to dump like, you know, so much fucking volume into a stock and just buy up all the shares before like the weekend before a major, you know, $700 million announcement. Yeah. So, I mean, that happened. That needs to be a story gets looked into. Like, I mean, like for like that has to be like a months-long story. Like, you know what I mean? I don't think like this might be like one of the most egregious things that happened, like financially during this time. Like people got fucking rich off of this.
Yeah.
I mean, like, and rich, stupid rich.
Well, look, I mean, you get the folks, and you know who gets stupid rich off this? People who are already stupid rich, right? And so
Yeah.
you've got people that, you know, I'm sure ahead of time when it was at $2 and they knew that this was going down, if they bought like 100, I don't even know I don't know if they bought say 100,000 shares of Kodak at $2, right?
And then just sell at 45 or 50.
Boom. I mean, just do the math on that, right? I mean, that's insane, right?
Yeah.
If you buy 1 million shares, imagine that. Good.
Yeah. So like this is like definitely a fucking crime that happened. I mean, this was this was a bank robbery in broad daylight. Like, and this is something that should be prosecuted. But
Yeah.
that's all I gotta say.
There you go. Kodak.
I think yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I read through. I read through a whole bunch of these climate change stories at the top of the show. I'm not going to go into all of them here. It was more of kind of a point than anything else. The climate news has been absolutely disastrous over the past several weeks. And you know, and I'm taking a certain degree of accountability on this. Have not highlighted that more on this show, simply because of, you know, if you're following anything in the news, it's crazy all the time. And yet these reports that are coming out, you know, we're seeing some of, you know, the Baghdad temperatures this week, which was insane.
This fucking heat wave we had in the whole month of July.
Well, I mean, it's just, I mean, the hottest months on record. I mean, there's all sorts of warnings that's coming out for scientists, and they're literally falling on deaf ears at this point, because they can't break through the absolute kind of like bottleneck of corruption, of disaster, of brutality and violence that this administration is kind of like overseeing and participating in, and it's also kind of a reminder to me and to you, for that matter, that that's what right. So the normal is a situation of, we're talking about a planetary crisis and the kind of the disintegration of our democratic institutions. And so, again, I don't think I need to say it to this crowd as much, but we can never rest on our laurels, right? And in some ways, I began thinking a lot about this recently, is that this is one of the good things about Joe Biden as a candidate. And let's just assume that he wins, and I do not take that as a given at all. But I think there's very little, people don't have rose-colored glasses about Joe Biden, and that we can, yes, thank God we elect Joe Biden, now we can go sit back and he'll take care of it. I don't think there's that appetite that's out there, and I think that's necessary. And one of the best analogies that I've heard when I was listening this week, I don't remember which show it was on that I was listening to, but this person said, it was a reporter, I can't remember where, but basically said, look, we got to look at it like this. It's like Trump, right, is the acute condition, right? And that if we don't address the acute condition, right, we're dead, right? So we've got to address immediately the acute condition and get rid of that. But Biden, however, is the chronic condition. So once you get rid of the acute condition, you get rid of the chronic one, right? And the chronic one is that kind of neoliberalism, the kind of corporate Democratic kind of party as the limits of possibility in kind of left politics. That's the thing we address next. And I think that kind of clarity is kind of moving forward. And just seeing these rapid fire stories coming out this week about climate change has just kind of reminded me of that stuff, that our planet is falling apart. Our institutions are falling apart. And the only thing that's going to save us are the kind of things that we see, the fights that we've been seeing about Black Lives Matter.
Democratic committee platform is going to save us.
They can't even say that they're going to have bold moves on Green New Deal on the freaking party platform. I mean, come on. I mean,
Biden has pretty much endorsed it. Like major
that's what
points
I'm saying.
of it.
I mean, yeah, it's like, not exactly, but he's definitely moved in that direction. I know Sunrise has been has been pleased with at least the movements in the direction of that. So that's a good thing. But whatever. Anyways, so much to get to. All right, so we're gonna kind of close this happy talk off before I start going into the kind of climate disaster and dystopian future stuff. But that's good. But I want to remind you of a couple things. Is that one is that become a member of Raging Chicken, help support this work and help the growth of this podcast by going to patreon.com/rcpress. We've got a great show coming up for Out to Coop Live on Monday night at 7:00. Like I said, we've got higher education activists that from Westchester University. We got a representative from USask, from hopefully East Stroudsburg University, Kutztown University, looking at organizing in the pandemic from a range of different kind of angles, and some really cool stuff going on as a way of kind of addressing this, and not just simply saying, well, there's nothing we can do, we're just going to go back into the meat grinder. No, we're actually going to figure out what we can do and plan for the future beyond that. So you can help support those shows. Last week we had a great conversation with about the 717 Restaurant Workers United out in Harrisburg, and their organizing efforts around Cork and Fork restaurants out there. And we were also joined with a representative from Harrisburg DSA. Harrisburg DSA was kind of supporting 717 Restaurant Workers United too as well. And that was really a fantastic conversation. So go back and kind of check out that show if you haven't already. And we hope you'll tune in to the live show on Monday night at 7 p.m. You can support all this work by just simply going to patreon.com/rcpress. Become a member today for as little as $5 a month. We'll be back right after this with more Out to Coop podcasts. This is Kevin Mahoney. Be back in a second. Raging Chickens Out to Coop podcast. This is Kevin Mahoney, editor and founder of Raging Chicken Press, here once again with none other than Schrodinger's Gravy Seal, Sean Kitchen, which I actually love the name, by the way.
Yes.
Yeah. So kind of closer to home this week, we've got kind of quite a bit of stuff going on in Pennsylvania. Not the least of which happens to be, say, growing concerns once again that we're about to face kind of an uptick in the number of coronavirus cases. And
I don't know. Okay, so like I'm looking at the charts, right?
Yep.
And I don't know if like I'm concerned with what's happening in Pennsylvania right now. Like obviously like the cases are concerning, but like looking at what's happening with other states like Florida, Texas, all the states that pushed to reopen, and you're still seeing like out of control outbreaks.
Right.
Like, I mean, do we want to be seeing like 3,000 or 4,000 cases a day, like, and grow exponentially, or like is this slow burn what we like? Is this the pace we need to try to be around?
No, like here's my issue with it. Here's my it's that like, and again, I don't want to.
Or at what point like that just blows up?
Well,
like
the concern of mine is this, right? It has to do with complacency, right? Because Pennsylvania has managed this crisis better than most states in the country, right? That have outbreaks. We had early outbreaks, right? And if you look at and I do not mean to diminish the number of people who've died and the number of cases that we had, but like Governor Wolf has clamped down on this kind of pretty quickly. There was, I think, some pretty good efforts to get people to flatten the curve, to go back to that language, right? And the number of cases, although they're increasing, they're not increasing exponentially like we see elsewhere. You're absolutely right. However, my concern is that there can lead to be a certain kind of complacency when we look at those graphs next to one another, right? Because we could say, hey, we're not Florida, right? We're not Texas.
Because it's almost like because I've seen Democrats saying like we don't need these restaurant restrictions in place right now.
That's just garbage.
Bullshit.
That's just garbage.
I know, and it's garbage, and it's coming from someone who doesn't have Republican opposition because they got thrown off the ballot for fraudulent signatures. So you don't have to be held accountable to your voters because you're popular to begin with, and you had an asshole Republican get kicked off the ballot. You have no opponent. You're running unopposed. Like, what is the need for you to go out and try to undermine the governor's messaging on this?
No, look, I think the push should be for, again, to protecting people's jobs.
And like and their excuse is for this. I'm sorry to interrupt, but like their excuse was like, well, we're going to be seeing people cross borders to go to restaurants and bars. No, we're not.
It's fantasy thinking.
Yeah.
It's like this is what happens when you take this kind of this like competitive market logic that the Democratic Party in particular, I mean, the Republicans are just a lost case, so we can just kind of put them off to the side for the most part. But for the Democrats, who should have some responsibility to this, they got lost in this market logic. They think about like, competition with neighboring states and all this. This is a freaking pandemic. This is a different scenario. It is not a product. It is not an industry. It is not something that you can wish away. It is an organism that infects us. It is a virus, right? Yeah. It does not kind of care about like your ideological purity, right? All it cares about
or the talking points that the
production.
Restaurant and Lodging Association's fucking handing over to you to undermine the governors. Like,
but that's exactly
it. And I really just feel like putting this person on blast but I'm actually friends with them, and it's just like I felt like messaging them like a screenshot. Like, are you serious? Like, what are you doing to undermine the governor's work here? Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, we are still in a pandemic. I would much rather us to be gradually increasing at like this pace now and have people to like still beat it into their minds. Like, hey, you like still have to stay inside. Like, I haven't gone out unless I need to go to the supermarket, get some takeout. But like, I have not gone out and drink. I have not like sat down in a restaurant. Like, just like doing the bare minimum. And it's like it's shared sacrifice.
Well, that's just
like,
it.
And it's also it's like I don't know. I mean, if you're so concerned about the Restaurant and Lodging Association, then maybe we should be bailing out the workers.
That's what I mean, right? Or look, if you like, you can do both, right? I mean, this is, people were calling for this early. You just basically go ahead and you do paycheck replacement stuff, right? So that you basically pay the businesses to pay their workers, right? Now, there's some problems with that model and things like this. We can talk about, we can parse it, but I mean, there's multiple ways to do this. You can just give people money, right? That's a great way of doing it. Right, or you can pay
cash.
You can give replacement wages, right, to make sure that those people keep their jobs with there, but also that especially the small business, like I'm talking like small businesses, not like when freaking what. Not the small businesses that are really major corporations posing as small businesses. That's my point, right? Yeah. But the actual real small business, like little restaurants that are owned by, say like a family or something like this, you want to protect them too as well, right? Because that is their livelihood, right? You want to make sure that people are going to pay their rent, right? So whether you're paying the landlord for the rent or you're paying the people directly, or you just issue a blanket moratorium, you do these things. That's where the Democratic Party should be pushing. Right. Yeah. I mean, not to kind of like, force a reopening. And look, I agree with you. I mean, a measured, reasonable, rational way of moving
and
forward
the response,
and
like,
cautiously is really critical.
And Wolf's press conference a couple of weeks ago was like, we have to get our shit together because it's starting to ramp back up again. I mean, the fact that he was
the school starts in like 3.5 weeks, 4 weeks.
Yes. In-person teaching.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
I actually think like you should wear your shield.
Oh, did you see it? Oh yeah, I got posted it. Yeah.
For the podcast, like that might be like a really good like.
I'll tell you what, I'll get it when we go to the break before last call. I'll come back with it. You know what I also ordered though? I have to say, I ordered the plague mask.
Nice. I mean, like, yeah. And okay, so here, I guess like I can't wait to talk about the Kutztown stuff because like the way Pashy's just been fucking things up has been amazing. Like just continue par for the course. Like it's just like new chancellor, same routine.
Yep.
Like, but man, how about Russ Diamond?
Yeah, let's go there. Let's go to the let's go to the pro-COVID caucus. And go Russ Diamond. So I mean, you probably followed this much closer than I did.
Herd Immunity Caucus.
Herd Immunity Caucus. There you go. So, kind of, what was this? How did this go down out in Harrisburg?
I don't know. I think Russ was really drunk by like 10 o'clock in the morning and sent out this letter mocking.
Was that when it came out? It was 10 a.m.
Yes, he did it like fucking early.
Did he do it from the bar?
I heard he did it from the floor.
Oh, from the floor? Are you serious? He did it from the floor?
No, I don't mean the house floor.
Oh! You mean gotcha. Sorry. I thought you he went out, got a little toasted, went to the floor of the house, and was sitting there tweeting this stuff out.
No.
Okay. All right.
So, yeah. So, I mean, Russ has like a lot of backstories. One of them was he was found face down on the floor of a bar once drunk. Has multiple PFAs against him. Not a very woman beater, pusher around her. Like there, if you want to go there. And he is the person who's the fucking letting the GOP, the PA GOP is letting this man just take the charge, and he's just taking these people for a ride.
Yep.
And he sent out this horribly offensive letter about the unmasked community, and what he was going after was pushing back to the transphobia and abuse that Dr. Levine has had to deal with over the past month from assholes like Russ and others.
Well, that unmasked community thing was basically almost word for word from her speech.
Yes.
And he replaced it and mocked it by replacing like transgender or LGBTQ with the unmasked.
Yeah. And he sent it out as an official press release. And it just got mildly mocked, and I mean it was a horribly offensive thing to do, but I mean it also shows you that that even if the Republicans wanted to go after Levine for some reason, they can't now. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And they can't because they've gone around this whole entire time just making transphobic comments about her. Mastriano's been doing the same thing. Mastriano has misgendered Dr. Levine multiple times. Like, I recorded him making a joke. He was making a couple jokes like, yeah, like Levine has become a target for these Republicans who have been pushing this reopen stuff, and they're trying to say they're not being transgender or transphobic about it, but they are.
No, I'll tell you, and it is, and that kind
And
of
it's absolutely
modeling-
disgusting.
Oh, and that kind of modeling has been running rampant through. I mean, the reason why she had to come out and basically say, you know, kind of like defend this is because she was getting things like death threats, right? People were.
I know, like this is the shit that's spreading in these massive Facebook groups to reopen.
This is what I was just about to say. Is like
Yeah,
I look at
like,
my even
and
my
these gun
community
groups.
ones. Exactly.
Yeah.
I look at stuff from my local community, and you see some of these people, some of the postings in this stuff is.
I mean, I was home last week. It was hard talking to my dad, especially about this. Like, my dad like doesn't even know who Mastriano is, but was just spitting all of Mastriano's talking points, like about like the response and everything to this. And it was just like, I mean, that's what's like dangerous.
Yeah.
What's going to happen? Doug Mastriano is going to be the Republican candidate for nominee for governor in 2022. Like, I'm calling it right now.
All right, there you go. Sean is
Mark it down.
Mark it.
July 31st.
Put a pin in it right there. July 31st, Sean's birthday. He makes a prediction.
No, I mean, like, but like, that's what they're doing with this stuff. Like, Russ Nyman can't run for higher office, but like, Mastriano's using this to run for higher office, and that's what's scary.
And that's the terms under which he's going to run, right? I mean, this kind of nonsense.
Oh no, he's pandering to the far right. He's pandering to the Boogaloo Boys, all these gun advocates, these reopen people. I mean, he is like mainstreaming the very worst of the Republican Party. And like, the thing is, what's happened is, it's like, I mean, you mean to tell me Mastriano? I think Mastriano has an advantage against Pat Toomey in a gubernatorial primary. Like, Toomey's voters aren't primary voters. Like, Toomey's base aren't like avid Republican primary voters.
Right.
That's Mastriano's base. Like, you know what I mean? It's going to be easy to. We'll see.
It's crazy, man.
I can't wait.
It's just pretty crazy.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's gonna get
gonna get even worse.
Well, you got a little like this at least, then we know for sure that once the presidential election takes place and then is going to be contested for months on end, that it's just going to be continually interesting after that here in Pennsylvania, because it's just going to get like, it's going to be a crazy shit show.
I mean, like, we're going to certify. No. Again, this week, the fucking election stuff with Pat Toomey. Did you hear that about mail-in vote? Pat Toomey like only went halfway on Trump's response to changing the election date.
Yeah,
didn't go all the way. Where like Mitt Romney's like, no, 90% of our state votes by mail, and we've never had a problem voting by mail.
It's crazy. Well, I think,
and also what the thing is, it's like with this vote by mail stuff. Like, there's Republican operatives pushing Republicans to vote by mail because they don't want to be voting at the polls. And like, the more Trump fucks up the vote by mail stuff, that puts Republicans more in a bind for voter turnout. It's going to be forcing these people to go to the polls in a pandemic versus like voting by mail. Trump is doing a lot of damage to his own turnout.
Of course he is.
Like right now, and he doesn't even realize it.
Well, he doesn't care. I mean, he's always been about him. This is what he thinks. This is where he's comfort. He's going to stay with his comfort level, and that's all there is. I think that the story that you've talked about in this podcast, you brought up here in the podcast a couple weeks ago about the Trump administration actually, putting money into suing the state of Pennsylvania over the kind of mail-in ballot stuff. That actually made it onto Hayes last night. You had
I'm sorry, what was it?
It made it onto Hayes. The stuff about the Trump administration suing the state of Pennsylvania about the mail-in balloting stuff, right? Which you talked about then. It made it onto Hayes, what's his name? The guy who writes for The Nation on
Ari.
Yeah.
Ari Berman.
Ari Berman. He was on, and Chris Hayes was like floored when Ari Berman was bringing this stuff up about in Pennsylvania, and Chris Hayes like, what? They're doing what? And that's kind of where we're at. And this is just going to be.
I know this is going in front of a Trump-appointed judge in the Western District.
Exactly. So that's the that's kind of
Oh
where
my
we
God.
are. That's kind of where we're at. But crazy. I'm trying to find something here real quick. Sorry. But okay. So you got anything else on that score? What's going on out there? Sean just was like a deer in the headlights for a second. I'm a deer in the Twitter feed.
I'm shooting
sorry.
off a snarky tweet right now. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
There you go. All right, so I'll just pretend that Sean is still here with us, and we'll just go on here. All right, so we'll kind of talk a little bit about what's happening in the state system of higher education. This is also going down in kind of K through 12 schools. I mean, there's the requirements. I don't know if the date is the same in every county, but I know in Bucks County it's the end of the month today, that all the districts are supposed to have their plans formalized. And Bucks County also sent something out to everybody, all the school districts, that basically social distancing at 6 feet, right? The recommended thing is not going to happen. Is that they're saying 3 feet is enough, right?
I thought they were about to say we're just not going to have in-person class.
No, they're actually in 3 feet, right? So that 3 feet, because look, I mean,
School.
I don't want to come down too hard on these school districts and things like this, or even the counties for that matter, because they've got no freaking guidance.
I mean, it's
and
why
they've got
you don't have a federal
material
government
support, right? And without funding and support of what's going on with the schools, then this is then.
I mean, I
this is what
guarantee
they're
you,
stuck with.
I guarantee you, this, if Obama was president, you can rely on Arnie Duncan of all people to fucking tell people to do this. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I mean, and whip everything together. Yeah.
I mean, and this is just not happening, right? And so that schools are now people are being forced back to work.
They're
right?
getting
Because
kicked
they're
off of.
Right, they're being, especially with unemployment benefits expiring, being forced back to work, right, and being kind of threatened with their jobs if they don't go back to work. So what are they going to do with their kids if they've got kids, right? So that's what's going on in there. At the higher, so that's one problem, because then we talked about this in the podcast before. So that if
We also lost 32% GDP.
Well, yeah, I actually have that in a note that I meant to mention before. Yeah, it just kind of dropped. Well, it was technically at 32%. It was a 32%. It's I forget that there was a word for it, but it's like the worst in recorded history. So great. So that's where we are too as well. So that's a real thing, people. Anyways, so we've got so parents, right, who have kids in school, especially kind of elementary, middle school, and high school to a certain degree too as well. High school has a little bit more flexibility when it comes to online learning and the ability to kind of enact that in a way that's kind of pedagogically sound and it actually works for students. But for the rest of it, it's what are you going to do with the kids if they're not in school, right? Not only are they going to be, where are they going to be? Right. If the parents have to work, who's going to take care of them? And so then you basically push the issue of the spread of coronavirus into communities, right? Into unofficial daycares and neighbors' houses and grandparents' houses and things, which is a recipe for disaster. There's new reports that just came out that basically showed that as children get older, right? Even we're talking about late teens, like even middle school and high school spread the virus at the same rate as adults do. Right. There's something, my wife was kind of explaining some of this stuff to me, but there's something about that kids' bodies, right? You get some certain kind of chemical hormone or something like this that happens as you grow. And the more of that you get, the more susceptible you are to contract COVID-19, and the more that you can spread it. Younger kids, right, have less of that. So the chance is not zero, right? But the chance is much lower for younger kids, even for them to spread it. So again, all this stuff would be great information if there were actually the resources to enact what needs to happen. So that's the one thing. When we're talking about higher education, we're talking about a whole different ballgame, right? I mean, we're talking about, these are kind of
we are putting actual communities at risk.
Exactly.
Like
I've got a
towns,
great story about
regions.
this, which I want to talk about too as well in regards to putting communities at risk. But
yeah, no, this is putting whole entire regions at risk. Bring fucking college students back.
Yeah.
I just can't believe this is I can't believe Kutztown's holding out to the last minute on this.
Oh, I can. I mean, come on, I've worked there long enough. I know this is this is what I expected. Are you kidding me? I mean look, our provost, let me tell you this. Our provost, right, sends out she sends out a daily COVID-19 update. Okay? And you know what those updates are? They're freaking Pinterest quotes. It's like shit from a statement from Lao Tzu. It's a story about the
inspirational quotes.
Yes, about the starfish thrower, the kid who throws the starfish into the ocean to save just one. right? I mean, I swear to God.
She is your ex-girlfriend that posts inspirational quotes on Instagram all the time.
Just to be clear, not my ex-girlfriend.
No, I'm just saying, but
She
like
may be hers.
that's like the type of like social media person that you have.
It is. I did a whole bunch of calls with faculty members yesterday, and I can't tell you the number of.
You should
faculty...
put these like emails up online.
No,
like,
no. You know what I did? I'm telling you what I did. No, here's what I'm doing, because I like a lot of people. I've been asking everybody, did you save them all? Please tell me you saved them all. And because I started deleting them because I was so disgusted by this kind of like feel good stuff. Just look on the bright side of life. The only constant is change, right? I swear to God, this is the kind of garbage that comes forward. And so most people like me were just deleting this stuff because we couldn't believe this was happening. But then realized, oh my God, this stuff is golden. So we began saving them. So I spent about a half an hour taking a break from work the other day.
You should about like write to no requests.
Well, here's what I did. Oh, that's great. That's awesome. That's great. I'm going to do that. So yeah, heads up, everybody. That's coming. I want all the emails.
I can help you like craft that.
Right. But what I started doing is I started taking all like a whole bunch of selected of these emails and copied out the text and put them into a text reader program and began speeding up the voices. Right? It's like you're reading that. So it's like, and today we got a ghost. It's like, so, and I've got another friend who likes to kind of do kind of mixes and music. So
are these going to be podcasts?
Huh?
Are these going to make it to the podcast?
I'm hoping so. If I can get this guy to do the lay down the beats and do some of the editing for it, look forward to that one. I will put that on special release for everybody.
I was going to say you should follow like a rights and no request for all of like Hawkinson's emails.
Yeah.
Like just over the course of the past like 4 months.
Yeah.
Oh, they would hate you.
Oh God.
Like just
well, it just I mean
Hawkinson, like the provost, like all the administration people.
I'm at that point. I'm at that point. Because we have so listen.
I mean, like that right there would send a message.
Well, and it will, and I don't care if they shift. I am of the mind
they have to respond.
Like I am of the mind at this point where, in 2 weeks, they're gonna go into crisis mode, and then suddenly we're gonna be online after everything is all shifted, and then it's gonna be chaos. Right, and I think
after like the tens of thousands of dollars spent on those fucking owls,
right? I mean, we've talked about this in this program, right? The technology that they've supposed with no training for faculty, by the way, right? Just kind of like, here's your mic and there's some buttons, go push them, right? I mean, yeah, I mean, look, the guys from IT, right? Just some guys from IT that put up some instructional videos, and like those are good instructional videos, but doing a demo with one person on a Zoom call, right, with no students in the class, is very different than having classes filled with all those owls trying to stream this stuff live, right, with a technological infrastructure that is incapable of handling the load, right? So that it's going to be, I mean, the stories that I heard yesterday for some faculty, what they've had to deal with the summer classes, like they've switched over aspects of the online platforms that they're using and they don't work, right? That's just in summer classes. So this is going to be an absolute shit show. Not to mention a freaking meat grinder if we go back here. Now I want to say this. I've got my official confirmation. I put in to go all online in the fall, and I got approved for it. Right. So I have to say I can't stand online. I do not like being online. I said, but that is the only thing that is absolutely sane.
Oh no,
right?
like that's also like, I mean, like where my mom works at LaSalle, there's professor, she's known there for like 15, 20 years, who have gone all online, who would normally would never embrace that. We're like, yeah, I'm 70 years old. Fuck that. I've traveled the world. I'm not dying for some fucking pandemic.
No, absolutely. But
like,
I'll tell you like this, but check this out. We had to get approved by it, right? So there's an approval process. And you had to, if you had to basically demonstrate that you had some medical thing covered by the CDC, right, that was listed on that thing. And in some cases, people were asked to kind of several times to go back and get additional doctor's notes for stuff. And that information has to be sent to the Human Resources Department. Your private medical records now are having to be sent there to get an excuse to go. Now, here's the thing. There are people that I've spoken to that have been denied, right, going all online, right, who, in my view, right, are either as susceptible or as deserving, if not more, than I was. So I got to think, because in my little form, I told them, I said, listen, continuity of pedagogy, of like the continuity of learning in the classroom is absolutely like integral. I will not do what I did last semester. Right? Last semester when we suddenly had to go online and then reverse it all like that, I'm not doing that again because we have a better way we can plan this all way. And I'll let you know that if we're in person in classroom and my kid's school closes down, I'm taking FMLA for the rest of the semester and you're going to have to deal with it. Right? That's the line that's exactly what I said. And so I got an approval, and frankly, I feel really uncomfortable about even that approval, right? Because it makes me want to fight even harder now to make sure that nobody has to do that, nobody has to go back in those classrooms, because it is unfair. It is unfair, right? That I mean, I know some people who take care of their primary contact with their aging parents, right? Or folks who have medical conditions, right? And they're going to be forced to go back, and I'm not, right? As much as I'm at risk, no, nobody should have to face that. So that's kind of where I'm at this point. But so
And then-
what happens is so
I was gonna ask you about the town hall, but
yeah, I'm going to get to that right in a second. So each day, right, what has happened each day, new universities in the state system of higher education announce that they're shutting down,
which
right?
is just amazing to me that like you're in charge of running a system, and you're not even like taking the system by the reins. Like, is the system like you're just like? It's amazing that the Pashy's way of doing this is to not like take a one size fits all approach, but to like just fucking do whatever you want.
Right. Well,
And
not
it's just
only
like-
that, right? And
And it's just like how do you manage a system when like 7 schools are saying we're opening and 7 are like no, we're going all online.
right. Well,
Like
here's the
it's
thing.
like you can't.
You don't. And the thing is that not only that, this shows you how everything is about freaking image, right? For that guy, for the chancellor, right? For the
Like,
chancellor,
and it's
all
also
about image.
like I mean,
the
fact you're putting
talked
actual-
about the survey that ABSCUF did, right? The faculty union did,
yeah.
right? It's come out now, right? You learn this stuff through the grapevines. He's absolutely freaking pissed that the union did the survey and had the audacity to tell people about the results. He's absolutely livid that the public knows that faculty are freaking out about going back in the midst of this pandemic.
As they should be pissed.
Exactly.
I mean, like like someone I've seen these arguments pop up. Like I think on like Colleen Klutz Clemens' post, people's like, well, why should professors be worried about going back in the fall? I'm like, because like they're not fucking like disposable labor. Like-
Exactly. And for the same reason,
Like
why-
we're going to say, oh no, you're disposable labor because Johnny over here needs to have the Kutztown experience of living in the Golden Bear apartments that's paying $18,000 a year for,
exactly. And so
with no
or
one
so
else
that
on
you
the
have-
ghost town.
Right, or
campus.
so that you have you basically are telling your custodial staff that oh yeah, we know that you don't have adequate PPE, but that's what you're going to have to deal with. So I'd figure out a way to reuse your shit, right? How about that? How about food service workers who are going to be put on the front lines, right, without adequate PPE?
Minimum
as well?
wage workers, so your kid can go to fucking school.
Right, and
Like,
then how about
and
this?
that's-
And how about you're already in a precarious situation and you want to be able to keep your job, and they basically say to you, either you come back or you're going to lose your job. Or they threaten you, they want to get your support by basically saying, okay, look, if the school goes online, you're out of work, as opposed to thinking about another way of doing this. These are the threats that are going on. And Kutztown University and several other universities are also under threat of retrenchment, right, to elimination of programs and faculty, even tenured faculty for that matter. And I've talked to also several faculty who told me that they know several colleagues that are not saying anything because they're afraid that if they speak up, then their head is going to be on the chopping block.
So,
This is
like-
the absolute worst case scenario of what's going on here.
And God forbid if the members do something to let the public know.
Dude, I'm like, I've been talking to some of my fellow members, like, look at what's happened in K through 12. The AFT this past week, they
And
just
also, I
basically
mean-
came out as a national organization and they said, look, we understand if you do not have adequate protections in your school district and you're being forced to go back in ones that are going to put yourself at risk, we, as the national union, will back you. If you need to take a safety strike, we will back you. Right? That means legally, even if they're breaking the law and basically going out there, the union is going to back them. And that's what I kind of posted that stuff out on Facebook. I'm like, one of the things, here you go. This is what it means. This is what we should be doing.
And I
As
think this is
faculty
the road
members,
we're
we should
going down.
absolutely be refusing to return, right?
And
under
imagine if, like,
conditions that are
that
gonna put people
happens.
at risk.
Imagine if that happens, then like we have mass strikes.
Yeah.
Education strikes
Yep.
in the fall.
Yep.
I mean, this is where we're going. Like, I mean, we're just allowing it. I know that's the absolute response you need. Like, this is a time where labor has to step up and say, "Fuck you, this ain't happening."
Exactly. That's the only thing. And you know,
Yeah.
I have to. I've been frustrated with some of the discourse I hear both from my statewide union, but also colleagues who are kind of like being timid about this stuff. And I'm like, if you're not willing to protect the lives of yourself, of your family, of your colleagues, your fellow workers, and your students, I don't know what the hell to do with you.
I mean, it's like the basis of like forming a union.
Duh, right? I mean, like
safety at the
we need to
workplace.
be back in the coal mines before we do that. I mean, come on.
Yeah, no, it's like the exact reason why there's people form unions.
Yeah, this is I'm not going to go even further on that one, but so this one, so that's all going on, right? And so on next
I want to hear about
Wednesday,
this town hall.
well, on next Wednesday, we'll get to the first town hall first. On next Wednesday, the Healthy Campus Bill of Rights, which I've talked about on this program too as well, is going to have a second. This would be the second town hall. The first town hall was pretty awesome. We had about 30 plus people that came out, and surprisingly, there were a lot of parents that joined the town hall too as well, talking about our concerns and thinking about kind of how to organize and kind of move forward. So we have the second one coming up on Wednesday. We just started to announce this, and shortly after we started kind of floating this and announcing this to people, we find out about this other town hall that's happening.
This
right?
is where you should do a right to know request.
Well, I've got a that's actually on my list. I hadn't thought about the email stuff before, but this is on my list.
Yeah.
Is so that one of the things that so this town hall comes up, and nobody knew about it, right? Or at least nobody I knew about it. Right. And the only reason I do know about it is because there was a meeting among department chairs. Right. And I guess there was I don't know if it was just department chairs or whatever it was. But someone of the administration apparently mentioned in passing or something like this that there was some kind of town hall coming up. And like literally everyone's like neck snaps as it kind of goes over like, what?
What?
What are you talking about? Right. You know, and
Oops,
so, yeah.
we're supposed to say that.
Right. Well, and somebody got a hold of a picture of this invite. Right, and sent it to me, right, and basically what it says, is it a flyer, and there's a link at the bottom, but of course I don't have the link. It's just somebody's just got a picture of the page, so it's not the actual link, but there's a link to kind of accept an invitation to join this town hall, and it's listed. And what it says in this, it says it's quote a unique opportunity to learn about KU's vision for the fall 2020 semester directly from university leadership, featuring Kenneth Hawkinson, right, 6 p.m. on Tuesday. Right. So if there's anybody out there listening to is a faculty member at Kutztown University who happens to have a link that they're not using, they want to send my way, I'd love to have that. So anyways, so that goes on, and it's being sponsored by the KU Foundation, right? The fundraising arm of the university. Right. And we find out that we find out a few people here, and it looks like the target audience for this initially what I thought it was just donors, right? And maybe key VIPs or a select group of people. So it's meant to be, your country club gathering. That's your town hall.
Let me guess. It's going to be the local state representative.
I don't even think the state representative's on that.
I wouldn't be surprised. Okay, not even like Judy Schwank or something like that?
No, that's on my list of things to do today, is ask her if she's been invited, because I really hope that she'd answer these questions, and I want to see where that goes. So, but here's what I found out. Right. I just found this out yesterday. This is after I found out about this here. So apparently, one of the issues that has come up that shows you the kind of the absolute neglect or absolute like, or where KU administration is at. So it turns out that when Kutztown was releasing its new plan of return, right, and it was announcing it and posting it up here, and then there was the announcement came out on June 26th about this big official reopening and all that kind of stuff. Well, it turns out KU administration never spoke to the Kutztown mayor or council. They were not included in any of the discussions about the planning.
So they were going to have like an in-person town hall.
That's right.
This wasn't going to be online. This was going to be in person. Let me guess, were masks not going to be required?
Well, so now there's some stuff in here I have a bunch of information here that I don't want to overstep my bounds to a little bit, because some of the stuff I need to follow up on with this person that's kind of giving me some of the evidence of this stuff. Okay. But so the Kutztown, like the actual, people who are democratically elected to represent people in Kutztown, right? In that community where Kutztown University is located, weren't part of the planning process. So apparently, some folks began asking the mayor, what do you think about this? And the mayor's like, about what? So you say, what? You said what? Right? And so my understanding is that some people on the Kutztown City Council or Town Council and the mayor started getting a little frustrated that they weren't included in this process. So it just so happens on Tuesday at 6 p.m., right, is the regular meeting time of Kutztown's Town Council, right? So it looks to me, right, that one of two things is going on here.
Just
right?
happened to be at the same time.
Well,
Total coincidence.
This is kind of like, I think they're trying to kill two birds with one stone here. I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to give people that kind of sense of special access to the president, those donors and other things they want to cultivate, at the same time trying to do damage control, right, in the town of Kutztown. By inviting the town. Now, I don't know if the town council members, this is something I have to follow up. I don't know if they have been invited, right? But it's going to be very interesting, right? So
you should show up.
Well, I need the link. I don't have the link. If
like, do you actually need the link to show up, or like, is it online?
Yeah, it's online. It's all online. It's on
okay,
Zoom.
I thought they were doing like.
No, it's a virtual town hall.
Okay.
Right. So, so it's pretty crazy. So,
Nice.
anyways, so I'll be following up with that a little bit, right? Because there's something that I was really pissed. So I wanted to share with you as a kind of little lighthearted response to this once I found out about this, because one of the things that drives me absolutely crazy is when people find out information about this to begin sharing it with each other as individuals, and then it stays there. So certain people know, certain people don't know, right? And then that's a problem. So for me, it's like, put it in the public, right? Sunshine. Right. So my first step was so I went to our my email, right, and I wrote the following message, and it was written to the Kutztown University Foundation Alumni Relations, and you could also email them at info@kuf.org. That's info@kuf.org. That is the Kutztown University Foundation Alumni Relations, and I also sent it to our faculty. Right. I would also encourage you to also send something to President Kenneth Hawkinson. And that's hawkinson@kutztown.edu. That's HAWKINSON, Hawkinson@kutztown.edu, and express your willingness or desire to also be part of this town hall, right? And, you're a member of the community, right? There you go. So anyways, so this is the email that I wrote to our faculty, both Listerd and to the foundation. It said, "Dear KU Foundation, I recently learned that the KU Foundation is hosting an exclusive access town hall with President Hawkinson on Tuesday, August 4th at 6 p.m. The town hall is billed as a, quote, unique opportunity to learn about KU's vision for the fall 2020 semester directly from university leadership, unquote. I was initially concerned that my invitation to the event got swept up in a spam filter or I accidentally deleted it. As I am sure you know, as a faculty member, I am seriously concerned about returning to campus this fall in the middle of the worst pandemic in a century. I was wondering if there would be a town hall where faculty, staff, students, and their parents could have an open exchange with the university leadership about our concerns. I was glad to learn about Tuesday's town hall. However, I have since learned that Tuesday's town hall will not be open to members of the university community. My understanding is that only a select alumni and donors and VIPs have been granted access to the town hall. If that is the case, can you please let me know how much money I need to give to Kutztown University's foundation in order to gain an invite to this unique opportunity? Thank you in advance for your kind assistance. Sincerely, Kevin Mahoney. P.S. I have CC'd the KU faculty on this email because I have spoken to many other faculty members who also did not receive an invite." All right. So that was my little announcement, and I included a copy of the flyer so that all the faculty members at the university can see this too as well. Right. And it's been interesting because I've already gotten some kind of what people like sudden back to me like, "Oh my God, thank you. I nearly fall off my chair laughing," to kind of like, that's inappropriate. Right. And this is like the most vanilla kind of freaking response you can take to this stuff. Right. And if we can't do at least this and push back here and flood the email inboxes at info@kuf.org and Hawkinson@kutztown.edu, with these kind of requests and demand to be at that town hall to be able to kind of to have some degree of accountability to Kutztown University administration. I don't know what it is. We've been asking for this. Our faculty, our staff, our students have been asking for an open town hall with the university administration from the begin with, and they've refused. So here you go. Any link that's out there, I would encourage you, if you have a link to this, if you have a link to that town hall, send it to everybody you know and tell them to get on town hall and demand at Kutztown University you go online, and it kind of answers very specific questions that the faculty have been trying to ask for months now. So there you have it, everybody. That's my happy news about the kind of return to campus at Kutztown University. I'm actually kind of really livid about it, as you can tell. And this is why I also want to encourage, make sure that I'm gonna be drumming this in everybody's head, is that it's a perfect time to get on kind of www.pavotersservices.pa.gov. There's gonna be a link in the show notes. Make sure that you request your mail-in application, because we need everybody to vote, and we need to actually kind of turn over what's happening in Harrisburg and locally in your local unions and your local organizations. You need to be pushing back. You need to be demanding accountability and safety in kind of measurable ways. So last thing I'll say before we take off is that poor Mike Pence got in a little accident out there in Allegheny County while I was out campaigning. Boo-hoo, #dump Trump. So anyways, this is Kevin Mahoney, editor and founder of Raging Chicken Press. I want to thank you for tuning in. I want to remind you to just go to patreon.com/rcpress, where you can become a member, so those $5 a month. We will be back right after this quick break for this week's Let's Talk! One. Everybody, welcome back. Raging Chicken's Out to Coot podcast. Let's go. We talk space news, beer news, and whatever else seems to be on our mind. I went through in the introduction about a whole bunch of space news this week. It really was dramatic. I just really want to focus in on kind of one. I do have to say the stuff that was going on with this, or the launch of the Perseverance rover, it really kind of caught my attention. I've got my Mars hat on today. See that? Sean's like, yeah, I see your freaking Mars hat. But it was kind of some of the science around it. I really geeked out at on Thursday. They had kind of a whole bunch of live programming kind of throughout the day with different NASA scientists and stuff about what they're looking to do. And I mean, this is absolutely kind of incredible. And, I have to say, is like, it is one of these things you see, like, if this country and organizations put their minds to it and actually kind of commit to something, you could do freaking pretty amazing things, right? So, I'm all thinking, like, maybe NASA should be kind of running our institutions at this point, right? Because it's like, you got a mission, you're gonna go for it in here. Some of the fascinating parts about it, though, is that there's this Jericho crater. It's like this 25-mile wide crater on Mars where the Perseverance rover will be landing. And there is basically what scientists thinking about this whole crater at one point was basically filled with water. right? There's all sorts of kind of delta markings there, and all sorts of kind of like, kind of stream beds that are kind of feeding into the crater and coming out of the crater. So if there was any kind of microbial or bacterial kind of life on Mars at any particular time, this is a really awesome place to be looking for it. The other interesting thing about Perseverance rover is that for the first time ever, they're going to be taking samples, and the samples are going to be loaded into the Perseverance rover. There's going to be another mission that comes back, I want to say in 10 years, around 2030s or something like this, which will come back, right, and will get those samples and then bring them back to Earth, right? So it's this kind of multi-layer kind of thing going on. The other thing the other reason why this is interesting in terms of the scientific discovery, that crater was filled with water. At least this is what they're thinking, and there was flow of water toward that crater, around that crater, around at the same time that life was forming on Earth. Right, so there's some parallels there, right? Because there's always been that big question about what happened to, why didn't Mars develop it, and Mars lost its atmosphere, and a whole bunch of stuff like this. So this is kind of an really fascinating kind of science that going to be coming out of that. And then they've got this crazy little helicopter thing that's kind of riding on the belly of Perseverance rover. That is it's this little 4-pound helicopter that's designed to fly in the Martian atmosphere, and it's gonna be flying around Mars, which just kind of freaking blows my mind. So just really cool stuff. And they also have some really great kind of like explainers. If you go to kind of the NASA's main website, kind of explainers about the Mars 2020 mission. Great stuff for kids. Great stuff if you just kind of want to geek out on some of the science and some of the kind of space stuff. Really cool stuff to kind of check out. So do there. Also a bunch of links in the show down below that will get on to some of the other space news that I kind of announced up there. But just kind of a lot going on. So the Mars 2021 is like on the other side of what we saw with the SpaceX and the commercialization of space in many ways, and what's happening in terms of a lot of the projections out and about they're looking for mining on the moon. So there's gonna be lots of that stuff going on. The other thing I didn't mention, I'll just throw in at this point, is that the UAE also sent its first probe to Mars, right? And China is now in the midst of making a major play for Mars, and also kind of establishing base stuff on the moon. So you heard me talk about kind of like galactic capitalism and all this other kinds of stuff. This is going to start playing itself out more and more into that field too as well. But that's all I'm going to say about it today, because I don't want to bore Sean too much, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's my fucking birthday.
That's your birthday present. See, I'm shutting my mouth. I'm not going total geek on you. But it's good. So a couple things I'll say for Free Will Brewing's got a brand new fresh IPA. It's called Baleful. It's a hazy IPA, and it's brewed with oats and hopped with Galaxy, Citra, and Lemon Drop. They say has got soft body notes with pineapple whip, mango smoothie, and lemon haze. No milk sugar. Comes in at 7.1 ABV. I haven't had that yet. I'm really looking forward to grabbing some of that and checking it out. I have had, however, the newest addition to their mash lineup, which was a strawberry mango mash, and that's a sour ale that's brewed with 3,400 pounds of strawberries and mango puree, vanilla, and milk sugar. And it's just like the rest of the mash line. It's got really that kind of soft body with fruits and stuff. It's fantastic. Right, it's fantastic. Once again, they were able to keep some of the bitterness of the strawberry that came through, so it's not overpoweringly sweet. They didn't overpower it with mango, which can sometimes give it a kind of a weird consistency from my view, and like overly sweet. It's excellent, great drinking. That comes in again at 7.5 ABV. Levante Brewing, which you remember me talking about this before on the show, which I actually kind of got out of my little like bubble and ordered some beer from Levante Brewing. They've got a version of Black is Beautiful, which is an imperial stout. It's a collaboration with Weathered Souls Brewing. It's imperial stout coming in at a hefty 11% ABV. And again, 100% of proceeds from the sales of that will go to the Juvenile Law Center. They advocate for rights, dignity, and equity, and opportunity for youth in the child welfare and justice systems. And finally, I just had to do this one. New Trail Brewing had a beer called Up the Creek. It's a hazy IPA brewed with oats and light caramel malts, and it's hopped assertively.
I saw your out of focus picture on that.
Yeah, I didn't realize how out of focus it was until actually I saw it on a bigger screen. But whatever. What are you gonna do?
I didn't want to say anything.
Nah, I just let it sit because I'm like, whatever. I mean, I don't have that much of a dog in the fight, so to speak. But I just thought it was more for the effect of it. It's just I mean, this is what I'm saying. This is the official back to school in the pandemic thing. Up the Creek, it's great, and it's a great beer too. So I'm really enjoying the stuff I'm getting, especially some of the new releases from New Trail. That's great, and I have to say too as well. I mentioned this. I don't know if it was last week or 2 weeks ago, but Percy is getting a new brewery. Mystic Ways Brewing. It's opening up in kind of on South or West Walnut Street in Percy. And I mentioned them on the podcast, and kind of we tagged them in some of the posts, and got a nice note back from them saying thanks so much for kind of for the mention. We appreciate you kind of talking about us on the podcast. Look forward to hearing more, and we'll be tuning in. So that was kind of a really cool thing to hear back from them. There we have it. Anything kind of cool planned for your birthday, Sean, or the birthday weekend? I mean, other than kind of finding out where all your stuff is in the boxes in your house?
No, nothing really. I bought a TV yesterday.
Uh-oh.
I know. No, I mainly bought it for streaming purposes.
Uh-huh.
I've been watching the Jordan documentary on Netflix, which has been pretty interesting to like. One, like, why I never was able to watch. Really, don't remember watching Jordan growing up because that was like, I was
you were a wee lad.
I remember him winning, but I wasn't like paying attention and all that, like just the cultural icon. So it's actually like pretty interesting just watching it.
Yeah,
and see how great of a player he was, but also
amazing.
Like
he was amazing.
Yeah, like, and then also like knowing, like, learning about his faults and stuff like that too, and the way they have it constructed is a really good.
That's cool.
Yeah. So that new Norseman came out.
Yeah, I haven't finished the first season yet. Oh my God, you actually plowed through the whole thing?
Yes.
Are you like it? Tell me what you think of it.
I think it's pretty hilarious.
Good.
It's sort of like, I'm not going to say like the Office type comedy, but it's like that, like, to me, like, yeah, it's all like Norwegian and Scandinavian people who are casting it, but it definitely has like a strong English, like British, European humor to it.
Yeah, I think it's produced with
like
some.
That
I don't know if
Faulty
it's produced,
Towers.
Right. I don't know if it's produced in part for the BBC or the British organization, but there's some kind of partnership going on there. But
yeah, it reminds me of like Faulty Towers or like the Mel Brooks and stuff like that. So it's pretty good.
I mean, like I said, it's a totally. I mean, it's not like there's no depth there, right? You're talking. It's just kind of like funny, amusing storylines and things like this.
No intellectual. Like,
no. No, it's definitely kind of like a checkout kind of like I need a break kind of watching, but definitely.
Yeah, like I'm actually can't believe like I'm watching it.
I can't believe you are either. I thought you'd get like 2 episodes in, like whatever, Mahoney, man.
I watched I plowed through the season like the first day. It's like, this is actually fucking hilarious.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, it's like it's great.
Yeah. So no, like that was pleasantly surprising when I saw that the other day pop up. So
yeah,
looking forward to watching that. Not a whole lot more. I'll probably go to the market and get a burrito after this. So
there you go. And I got to say, so you can see a little bit. So you're in your office now, right?
Yes.
So I love the background, man. So you actually got
back. There's a fan.
There's a fan. So it's actually like a loft area that comes off there?
No. So this is a actual room.
Oh, okay.
So this room is
that a window to your? Oh, that's a window over there. Okay.
So there's 2 windows here.
Gotcha.
This is like the front of the house. So the next room over is living room, kitchen, bathroom, and upstairs is my bedroom and a spare room. So
yeah, so I think when you officially get all your stuff moved and get where you want it, you're just gonna have to give us a virtual tour of your entire.
That might take a couple months.
We could do Sean's home show. Here's my crafting table.
But like, I'm actually like thinking about. I mean, I think like with this, not spending money going out, I've saved enough for this. But I think it's also good because like the working from home is going to be an actual thing now.
Yeah, no, exactly.
And like getting in on this type of space now, I think it's only going to get more expensive, like years down the road.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, like there's whole office buildings in Harrisburg that have just shipped out. Like, and like, I mean, that's going to be an interesting impact to see what happens down the line once all those jobs that were stationed in the city leave the city and they don't have to pay a commuter tax coming into the city. I mean, like I drove to like my friend's place yesterday at like 5 o'clock in the afternoon, And driving in Harrisburg anywhere at 5 o'clock in the afternoon is just like gridlock.
Yeah.
It took me 20 minutes round trip, like to cross the river and get back.
Yeah.
Which involves getting on the interstate and crossing a major bridge. Yeah. And getting around the West Shore and getting back. So, I mean, it's definitely been interesting seeing how like there's a lot less traffic volume. But no, I like having this, like working from like the space. I'm thinking about like using this for photography stuff as well. So
yeah. I mean, I've had to really one of my projects in the next couple of weeks is starting this weekend is to try to reconfigure the space that I'm in right now. Because I'm really kind of tucked into a corner of the basement. My son's like streaming on his Xbox right now, and it's not like a quiet or separate space, which is fine, but it's also it's a challenge. I mean, it's going to be a challenge, especially kind of doing kind of all online teaching in the fall. That's going to be a whole different kind of experience. And everyone who says it does any kind of online teaching, and this definitely bears out in terms of the limited experience I've had thus far. It's more work because it's I mean, I have always been someone like my style, if you will, as a faculty is I just kind of like actually what we do on these shows in some ways. You're going to set kind of like a direction, right, with kind of like some stop points along the way, but allowing for a lot of fluidity, right? So part of it's been the back and take and the back and forth and kind of the exchanges with students, and sometimes I change up the directions that I'm going from class to class based upon, say, conversations or things that come up in there and all that kind of stuff. That becomes a little bit more tricky in an online environment where you can't even necessarily guarantee that all students are going to have adequate access to the internet in order to kind of be part of these classes and everything. And the university has basically told other people I've talked to who have been approved to be online, basically said they still have to be synchronous learning, which means that I have to be in my quote unquote classroom during my class periods in order to do this. And I'm actually fine with that. I would have done a version of that anyways, but it poses significant challenges to students who don't have great access to the internet. So again, if there had been a plan that would better, it would be different, but it'll be what it'll be. Last thing I want to say before we go, well, anything else you got going on that you're
no, nothing really.
Yeah. Well, the last thing I want to say, just I really appreciate the folks who've been giving me some feedback and have joined into the live show on Mondays at 7 p.m. For if you've been listening to this show, one things that I'll kind of give you a couple tips that things that I've learned we got from some of the feedback and so on. So in order to listen to the show, you'll need to kind of click on the link. You need to click on a link that'll be posted on Twitter. It'll be posted on our Facebook page. I have a Facebook event that's set up for it. Sending it out to our mailing list. So if you're not on our mailing list, you can go to ragingchickenpress.org and get on our mailing list, and I'll send it out to there. Best place is on our Patreon page. If you go to our Patreon page at patreon.com/rcpress, there'll be a link to that show that will be there too as well. But if you want to participate as you want to call into the show, you'll need to get the Podbean app on your phone. So that link will prompt you. You get to the links that'll prompt you to kind of download that app, and that will allow you actually to kind of call into the show or request a call in. Just a heads up for Monday's show. We've got a pretty packed guest list, so we might actually fill out all the slots we have for call-in just with our guests. If that's the case, I'll let you know, but you'll still be able to comment or ask questions within the just within the comment sections of with that Podbean app, and we'll kind of respond to stuff in that way. It's been a really cool experience, and I was really thrilled that I've had so many folks that were willing to kind of join the show on Monday, where we're really focusing on kind of higher ed organizing in the pandemic, and having folks from multiple universities from different kind of perspectives working on different kinds of campaigns. It should be a very kind of fruitful discussion. And the other thing that I looked a little bit more into, I didn't want to kind of lay this out in the other show before because I wasn't sure how they work. It's the kind of thing like, say, if you're not ready to become a member of Raging Chicken, right? Just $5 a month, patreon.com/rcpress, $5 a month from there. What's cool about the live call-in show, if you're a live call-in show, you can leave us little gifts. They have these things called golden beans. You leave us a little gift, and you have to buy the golden beans for like whatever, $3 or something like that. And then you can choose different gift levels to kind of you want to help support the show in that way. So it's like this is Podbean's way of trying to kind of like do a Twitch type of thing, right, with a tip jar and that kind of thing. But you can do that too as well, and I'll be talking about more of that on Monday's show. So check out last week's show. Thank you so much once again for the feedback. Look forward to have more folks tune in on Monday, and I've got some kind of interviews lined up here too as well. It's been a really busy week in the Raging Chicken world. I've been contacted by some kind of local development organizations and some people that are working anti-fracking campaigns kind of in the western part of the state, looking to get on the podcast, looking on the show. So we're going to have some cool interviews kind of lined up for you. Some of them won't come out in terms of, we'll be able to schedule that until the end of the month. But for now, we'll be having a kind of increasing program on Out the Coop Live and some interview shows that we'll be putting into the podcast feed too as well. Regardless of whether or not you're able to turn in on Monday, remind you that it will always be put back into the podcast feed, so you will get that in your podcast. Thank you also to folks who've been giving us feedback on our YouTube stream. It's been very helpful, getting both whether comments or kind of little tidbits or kind of suggestions. That's been helpful too as well, and I also appreciate any of the kind of the tips that people are giving me about working with OBS too as well. That's been great. So thank you all. Sean, I hope you have an awesome birthday. May the rest of the day be filled with kind of like burritos and beer. I don't know.
Pretty much.
Oh man. And I promise that next week I will not be sitting here with my bug eye glasses on. So
be wearing your shield instead.
Oh, I forgot to get it. Oh yeah, I got my great shield. I'll bring that up next week. About there. My plague mask should be coming too as well. So cool.
Nice.
All right. So this is Kevin Mahoney, editor and founder of Raging Chicken Press. Thank you all who are tuning in live right now on our YouTube stream. Thank you all for listening to us on the podcast. We always like to hear from you. Don't forget to like us on Facebook, to comment on us, to like us. If you listen on iTunes, make sure you leave us a review. It really helps get the word out. Comment on our YouTube stream and share this work. Help us build this out to even be a more effective tool for keeping the media in the movement and the movement in the media. This is Kevin Mahoney, editor and founder of Raging Chicken Press. Thank you all for tuning in this week. Until next week, till Monday.
So the point I'm trying to make here, Mr. Barr, that I think is very important for the country to understand, is that there is a real discrepancy in how you react as the Attorney General, the top cop in this country, when white men with swastikas storm a government building with guns. There is no need for the president to, quote, activate you because they're getting the president's personal agenda done. But when black people and people of color protest police brutality, systemic racism, and the president's very own lack of response to those critical issues, then you forcibly remove them with armed federal officers, pepper bombs, because they are considered terrorists by the president.